Right, we are live. Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to the Kiwi Lads channel. We are here for the last day of Super Rugby Pacific before the playoff games are all determined. These two sides both need the win to even have a chance of making the top six. Now, there is also something else that can happen is whoever wins this game doesn't actually end up in that top six position. We show the table here. Moana Pacifica currently would be going through if whatever happens in this game happens in their game up against the Hurricanes as well. It looks like there's a bit of rain around at the moment, bit of a sun shower by the looks of it. Slightly unfortunate, a little bit of slipperiness perhaps on the ball, but the Chiefs have confirmed their number one spot. The Crusaders, they have confirmed second, and the Brumbies, they are confirmed as number three. But all of these sides can reshuffle throughout today's rugby. Like I mentioned, these two sides playing Hurricanes, taking on Moana at 7:05, and then the 9:35 will determine whether or not the Reds can climb up that little bit further on at the table as well. But looking through at the starting lineup for the Blues, it is Josh Pusitua, Ricky Riccatelli and Marcel Renata as the front row. Patrick Tuipulotu alongside Lachlan McWannell in the locking duo with Anton Segner returning in the number 6 jersey. They have got Dalton Papali at 7 and Hoskins Satutu as the starting number 8. Finley Christie alongside Bowden Barrett in the 19 combination. AJ Lamb back in the midfield with Rico Ioane, Caleb Clark out on the left. We see the return of Mark Talia out on the right. He's had his 3-week stand down from what he did in the game up against the Reds, and now he's looking to come back just at the perfect time as well for playoff rugby if they do manage to advance. Corey Evans finds himself at number 15. Could be quite a handy player in this contest, as we might see a little bit of kicking from the Waratahs, as they do quite enjoy that counter-attack when the ball is kicked straight back to them. But the Waratahs in this starting lineup, they have got Angus Bell alongside Dave Parecki and Taniela Tupou as their front row, so a few Wallabies in the mix for this contest. Lee Warner alongside Amato Cero in the locking duo, with Hugh Sinclair actually stepping up as captain for this contest. Adamson at 7 and Langy Gleeson slotting in as the number 8. Teddy Wilson alongside Bowen as the 19 combination. Walton and O'Donnell in the midfield. Tristan Riley, Andrew Callaway and Lawson Creighton as the number 15. Now, the elephant in the room is the fact that the Waratahs are without who were two of their stronger players throughout the season, one in particular being Joseph Suali'i. Unfortunately, he is still unable to play. Tane Edmed also missing for the Tars. So there's quite a few reshuffles that they've had to make in terms of new plans, new tactics, but their form guide, they managed to get themselves to win over the Western Force last week. Before then, they were on at least a 3-match losing streak. And now they're at Eden Park, a location where they have not won in 16 years. They were listing a few of the things that had happened in 2016, the likes of Usain Bolt getting the Olympic record. They said that Michael Jackson, he died in 2016. That was 16 years ago. Oh, sorry, 2000 and whatever that would be. 2000 and I can't even do the maths off the top of my head. 2007 was it? Maybe, rather than 2016. Just getting too excited about this contest as the two sides do make their way out of the tunnel. We are just about ready to go for this contest, ladies and gents. And like I said, we have still got a couple more games taking place later on tonight too, which will certainly be ones to keep an eye on. But the Waratahs, can they complete a little bit of an underdog story here? Like I mentioned, they aren't really given much of a shot in the TAB odds. We have got their Go Blue go through. And yes, Mark is back. Says King Zion, June 2009. Says Novmum there. What else did they say happened in 2009? They said something about Kanye West interrupting Taylor Swift. All this stuff makes me kind of feel old, even though, like, yes, I'm slightly younger than some, but time flies. Make the most of it, ladies and gents. We reckon their Blues should be the favourites to win for this match, or is it more 50-50? Blues are 100% the favourites. Like I mentioned, Waratahs haven't won here in 16 years. They're missing Joseph Suali'i. They're missing Tane Edmed. So they're pretty much, you could say, the walking wounded, but they still, every once in a while, can fire. And we found that out. A few of their recent games, we have got their Blues should be favourites to win this. I know already they won, and we have got their Hello Hamish. Hope you're good. Stormers got the short end of the stick last night. I hope the Sharks and the Bulls can make South Africa proud. But the less Blues, nonetheless, Blues by 15. Unfortunately, the Stormers, like, yes, they were away from home, unlike the other two South African sides, but they just, the amount of errors, it was very sad to watch for a side that have been in such great form as of late. Like, they probably dropped the ball 15 to 20 times throughout that game. But the one benefit that they had was, at least by dropping the ball, they had a good moment because their scrum was dominant. But that was about as far as it went for the Stormers. Only giving away 4 penalties throughout that game too, compared to the 16 of Glasgow. But they couldn't make the most of it. Every time they got 5 metres out, they seemed to completely fumble it, and they just didn't do enough, unfortunately. And Langley-Gleeson, 14th Wallaby, set to deport to France to join top 14 club Montpellier, is a stat that they've just put up on the field, or on the screen, I should say. And that's quite a big hit to the Tars. He's been a very handy player for a while, but it's kicked off by the Waratahs, and we are now underway at a 10% full Eden Park, I would say, for this contest. Maybe 20. It might have been being a bit harsh. But now, the Blues in possession here. This could be their last game of the year, depending on how this one goes. Now, Corey Evans. Oh, already a little bit of a slip there from Teddy Wilson. I mentioned about it just prior to kickoff. There was a little bit of rain around. It looked like it eased up and the sun came out at one point just before kickoff as well. We have got there, how come you up so early, Hamish? The sun is just coming up, says Cool Story. We have got plenty more coming today as well. Probably about 11 more hours of streaming throughout the next about 16 hours. Big shot on AJ Lamb, or from AJ Lamb, I should say, and has dropped the ball too there for the Tars. Which does mean that the Blues are now in possession. Lachlan McGuantle goes across to Tui Polotu, delayed his pass. Finley Christie across to the left-hand side. Big shot on Marcel Renata. He's been in a try-scoring mood as of late. Ball pops out the back, but it will be the penalty going the way of the Blues. And that is for offside against the Tars. So if Blues win with no bonus point and Moana win with no bonus point, does that mean Moana Pacific go through? Correct, yes. So the only way that the Blues go through ahead of Moana, if both sides have wins, is if the Blues get one more bonus point than Moana do. Pretty much that's the gist of it. Because Moana have more wins, it means that points differential, even though it's about 90 in favour of the Blues, doesn't actually come into it. Ban Aussies from playing in New Zealand teams. What are you on about today, Kiwi Rob? I feel like you just come up with a random story and go, you know what, that's a good idea. We'll put it in 10% full. Crowds prefer staying at home these days, I guess. How these stadiums make money? Well, in some cases they don't. Of course, they got the Springboks versus All Blacks test, and that will definitely be able to bring in a bit of money for Eden Park. A little bit of a counter-up coming here from the Blues, but the Waratahs have got possession about 30 metres out from their try line. Teddy Wilson go off to the right-hand side to Fergus Lee Warner. I'm pretending the Stormers didn't hurt me deeply. I'm going to eat a big box of Astros and Smarties. See, I haven't had a Smartie probably since about 2009. Is that your preferred one out of the two for M&Ms or Smarties? I feel like here in New Zealand, I can't think of when I've seen Smarties, actually. Do they still sell them? Oh, that was almost the interception for Dylan Peach. If he had hung on to that one, Tristan Riley, in fact, it was. But if he had held on, that would have been a breakaway try for the Tars. I don't think Aussies should be allowed to play in New Zealand. I think we should bring up ITM players. Oh, okay. So, you've made more sense that time. So you're saying no Australian player should be allowed to play in a Super Rugby New Zealand team because James O'Connor's playing for the Crusaders. Because he's about the only example that we've got at the moment in terms of an Aussie playing for a New Zealand side. At least he's a very rare group, I guess you could say. So does that mean it goes both ways, Kiwi Rob? Are you saying that they have to send home the guys from New Zealand who are playing in Australia and not allow them to play in Super Rugby unless they're playing for a New Zealand side? Or is it only a one-way street? Now Finley Christie out to feed this ball in. Pack weights, 20 kg advantage for the Blues in this contest. Whatever does the box kick do about lose possession. Sometimes if you've got a guy who can get up and slap it back, you gain a bit of territory, and it also has the opportunity for your opposition to make an error. But sometimes it looks like it's just aimless, and that normally depends on the depth of the kick. You've got to make it contestable. Oh, that one's going to be loose. Picked up by Andrew Callaway. Bit of a foot race here with Caleb Clark, and I think it was knocked on in the end. Okay, it was forward off the Blues first. So we'll go back for the scrum. And we have got there both ways, says Kiwi Rob. Okay, so you would rather... You do realise if you do that, you're actually losing more Kiwis their jobs than you are Australians, right, Kiwi Rob? Oh, just chasing enough there for Caleb Clark. DuPont is overrated, says Kiwi Rob. I would like to see DuPont play for a New Zealand team. It'd be intriguing. You know, we see some of these guys from the overseas comp, even in something like the ITM Cup or the Bunnings NPC or whatever you know it as, Mitre 10 Cup. Like seeing even someone like, who was it last year who went for Bay of Plenty? I think it was Angus Scott Young, wasn't it? He ended up playing in New Zealand. And some of these guys, they say, yep, it's a great competition to really get to play physical rugby week in, week out and hone your skills a little bit more. Now, going to be a chance. No different to someone like a Johnny McNichol playing for the Crusaders, getting the chance kind of revitalise a career. They've got a penalty advantage here for the Blues, and they are 22 metres out from their line. Bowden Barrett passed on the outside of Rieko Ioane, finds Talia. Tries to step through. He will have a lot of energy come out and try and perform here. But I'm keeping more players in New Zealand, says Kiwi Rob. But you do know you can only have so many players in Super Rugby squads. So, like, you're ditching James O'Connor, and then you've got, I mean, you look at the Western Force. I think they've got about 2 or 3 Kiwis in there. A couple of the other sides. So you're pretty much trying to, you're making bigger squads in New Zealand than Kiwi Rob, or are you getting rid of those young players that you've just said you're trying to develop? Because at the moment, with the exception of James O'Connor, there aren't a whole lot of Aussies on New Zealand sides. So I feel like you have something against James O'Connor, which wouldn't surprise me, because nothing surprises me with you anymore. And be on the lookout for Smarties. Going to freeze them and then chip my teeth on them. Now, I prefer to bite forks. That's how I chip my tooth. Forks are quite solid. Should be illegal for Kiwi coaches to compete against All Blacks, says Shane. Now, Dalton Papali'i going off to Ricky Riccatelli. AJ Lamb moving up to about 22 metres out from the line, back in that number 12 jersey. I do prefer him there, as you get to see him a lot more throughout the contest than being out on the wing. Definitely the way that the Blues have been playing recently. They don't shift it as much as they used to, which I think is why with Talia back, we might actually see a little bit of a tactical change here from the Blues. Finley Christie goes off to Anton Segner. Great to see him back. He's had his fair share of injuries as well. Now Hoskins Satutu, tackled by Joey Walton. A bit of a quiet X-Factor player there for the Tars. Corey Evans driven backwards. It's just one pass rugby at the moment here. But Bowden Barrett creates a bit of space, tries to step inwards. Oh, ball pops out the back for Mark Talia. That's offside by about a metre, isn't it? For Tristan Riley. We play on. The Blues sitting 5 metres out from the line. Now there is the advantage. I believe that would be for the offside. Lengy Gleeson got in there to intercept it. For Waratahs offside. Okay, so they've actually found an extra offside after that. It's time for a warning for the Tars for multiple penalties, says Kiwi Rob. And Shane Never, it's a cheat code for other teams, says Demon the 11th. And Springbok success makes us think the provinces will be good. Not too sure about that after last night. Yeah, it was a poor performance from the Stormers. I don't think anyone can deny that. They were far from their best. They would have actually felt pretty confident going into that game with how Glasgow's form has been. Glasgow, last 2 games, 160 minutes of rugby, had only scored 2 tries. Yet they had 2 tries up against the Stormers in the first 15 minutes of that game. Now Anton Segner off to Satutu. Bowden Barrett looping around. Oh, it's intercepted again. And the Waratahs are trying to break away. Corey Evans slowing him down and tackles him on the halfway line. Just manages to offload the ball back in the field of play. Finley Christie tried to give it straight back to the Waratahs, but luckily for him, the Tars dropped it. Joey Walton loses his footing. Now Bowden Barrett, there has to be space somewhere, but Corey Evans unable to move the ball on. Now Christie told to use it by Nick Berry. And what was a fast move has now turned into a structured play, and Teniela Tupou almost got the steal. Now Segner, low tackle on him by Hugh Sinclair. In fact, it was Jamie Adamson that time. Now Tupou right on the ball. And the man, he's told to get out of it. Now almost charged down kick of Finley Christie. Talia though lining it up. He's tried to slap it back in field and he slapped it straight to a Tars player, Tristan Riley, taken down. Back across to the right-hand side. This game is being played at quite the tempo at the moment for the first 10 or so minutes. And we have there G'day Champ, Blues by more than 3 tries. If they fire, they will. But at the moment, they don't seem to be taking those risks. Oh, that's a nice offload from Bowden. Barrett gets it away to Evans. But yeah, they're certainly looking like they could score. Oh, yes, Clark. Straight through a gap. Has Ioane with him. Callaway trying to catch him, and he does. What a tackle from the Waratahs. 5 metres out from the line. Little bit of a counter-ruck attempted. Christie has gotten stuck, and they force him back 3 more metres. But that is the type of defence from a side that want to make it to the top 6. They are throwing everything into it, but the Blues have to do the same here on attack. Josh Fusitua tackle 5 metres out. Now Renata going off to the right-hand side. Lachlan McWannell. Another chance here. Going out wide. Bowden Barrett across there. Short ball. AJ Lamb out wider. And Talia manages to score it in the corner. And the Blues, they get there first. But how do the Springboks play so good and Stormers not? Says Mohadin. Well, it's just, sometimes it's just a week in, week out thing. Like Sasha Feinberg Ngumezulu can be a 10 out of 10 player. But yesterday he was about a 3.5 out of 10. And not having Damien Valimza due to that suspension made a big difference in the way that the backline was able to function. There's all these little things that for the Stormers, they just seemed like sounds harsh, but a dysfunctional side at times. But this is a backline and a half there from the Blues, just exposing the space. I feel like that's actually where the Blues look the most dangerous, when they're on the attack from about 22 metres out from the line and allowed to use a little bit of space and the speed that they've got on the outside. 11 and a half minutes gone in this contest. AB's everywhere, says Shane. I was going to say Blues by 20, but after the Satyrs and Stormers games, they know now Blues 32. Bowden Barrett misses that one away to the side. And that is going to make the score 5-0 in favour of the home team, the Blues here. Just mentioned about Talia, back from a 3-game suspension. He could be the difference maker in this Blues side. Blues by 23, says King Zion. If you want to win Blues, use the backs instead of boots everywhere. And yeah, it's just showing there how effective their backline can be. Like Clark and Ioane, the first initial men to get that break. Most of the time this season, we've seen them go for a box kick from halfway, and that kills that kind of counter-attack where the Blues have been able to score so many tries over the last few years. Josh Fusitua. Now, Finley Christie asking for Marcel Renata to join that breakdown. Does kick it high and long down the field, but it's taken at the back by the Waratahs. Lawson Creighton. I'll put one high. Creighton chasing after it. Evans knocked it on. And it will be back in the hands of the Tars. We will get to see another scrum as that ball has been then knocked on by the Waratahs as well. Currently 26 matches for Corey Evans. The 3 tries. He is a talented youngster, but that little bit of rain beforehand seems like maybe it's just affected the handling a little bit for both of these teams. Although we've only had the 1 scrum up till this point, which has been quite good so far. Although they've just said the sun's come back out. So it's going to be one of those contests that just go back and forth. Boring game. In what way would you say it's boring, Stu? Like in terms of the scoreline, the fact that it's 5-0, or what's the goal? I would say it's been a pretty entertaining one with the counter-attack and rugby that we've seen so far from the two sides. The fact that the Waratahs got that ball from only just out from their own goal line, ran to the halfway line, then an interception for the Blues, then an interception for the Waratahs, then an interception for the Blues, then the line break, then getting the try out wide would have been quite entertaining rather than just crash ball. But now, chance here for the Tars at line out time. Good game so far. Yeah, I agree. I think it's been a pretty solid one. Oh, Bowden Barrett ended up making that tackle a little bit high. I think he took a bit of a knock on his head too there, Bowden, but he's back up to his feet. They are playing the penalty advantage in favour of the Waratahs. Angus Bell for his first run. He's been chopped down by Lachlan McWannell. Now inside ball to Fergus Lee Warner, keeping this ball moving as they have still got that advantage to be able to work with. Now, back across to the left-hand side. Tristan Wright, that's obstruction from Lawson Creighton, so they will now have to go back. RC for the Sharks games are going to be huge. Says Trevor, yeah, massive challenge for them up against Munster, who have been regarded as the team out of all the underdogs that may just be able to fire, but the Sharks, brilliant side as well when they are going well. And hopefully they can book themselves that spot through to the semis. Rico has lost his speed. I think people also underestimate how quick Andrew Callaway is. Like, this year for the Tars, we haven't seen a huge amount of open running from Callaway, but he just looked like a bulldog chasing a ball and managed to just grab anything he could on Rico Ioane. He's probably lucky he didn't accidentally get his shorts rather than the man. But he wasn't giving up. And Sharks by 20 tonight, says you're rough. And fun fact, I've walked an average 5K a day every day this month, says Novmum. I thought for a second we were on the first day of the month, and I thought just the one, but 31 days, impressive Novmum, good stuff. And Hamish needs, or someone needs to clip that moment. We were intercepted a lot there for a few seconds. Oh, short side, driven out by Bowden Barrett, showing a bit of the physicalness as well there for his side. Okay, it's not boring then, says Stu's World. And we have got there, what do you have to say about the Satyrs this season? They need Will Jordan, is pretty much the gist of it. When he's in the back line, they look like a whole different side. When he's not, they look a little bit... Oh yeah, that was the line-out. The ref was still talking to both line-outs there when Ricky Riccatelli threw that one in. A little bit of a cheeky tactic from the Blues, but it was effective. They managed to retain their line-out. Bowden Barrett does beat it in touch. But yeah, I think that if they've got Jordan back for the playoffs, they're going to be pretty hard to beat. But if Jordan's missing, same with Havili, as much stick as that man gets for some of his decision-making, he has still had a much better season than last year for the Crusaders. So I feel like you need both of those guys in the backs to have a good chance. Now Fergus Lee Warner selling as if he was going to the front, nicely taken there by the Tars. Drop ball, but it went backwards, says the ref. A rolling maul being attempted. Great work from Hoskin Satudu, putting the pressure on at maul time and then managing to snap that ball up when it bundled free. And Crusaders beat the Brumbies away with no Jordan, says Dion Sands. Yeah, but didn't they make it look difficult at times? I think that the thing is, like, I still, based off that game and the one that they had up against the Highlanders, I think that off current form, the Chiefs get them. And that's not what the Crusaders want. They want to be clinical like the Chiefs have been at times. And they can be. If they just manage to find those right connections. Couple more injuries for the Crusaders as well. We're a big concern going into that Brumbies second half. That one's going to be kicked into touch there by the Tars. Havili is so old. Yes, captain who chased Moby Dick, says you're rough. An exciting game as both teams are fighting for a playoff spot, says John. Yeah, it's almost the equivalent of, you could say, a final. You know, winner stays on. But then the sad reality is winner could stay on for about 3 hours. Oh, Bowen tries to chip it in behind. It's gone into the hands of McWennell around the halfway line. Now Bowden Barrett putting this ball in behind. And it's out on the full from Bowden. So they will go right back to the halfway line where he kicked it from. They're just trying to play a little bit of territory there again, the Blues, which I don't understand. They've had such a good counter-attack throughout this contest. We already saw the line break from Clark. They made them a good extra 30 or 40 metres, but instead of trying to go for that again up against the Tars defence, that has been susceptible to gaps. They kick it back and try and play the line-out territory type of contest. And greens from Arania Hamish, welcome in. Another boring kick, says Stu's World. You really don't like that. Well, you don't like anyone but the Crusaders, do you, Stu? They're your side through and through. Langy Gleeson, big run from him. I think the Stormers got overconfident. They play so poor, people here are angry with them. I don't think they got overconfident. I just think they had a really unfortunate game. You know, you have those type of ones, and sometimes it happens in playoff rugby. But, like, what they've done throughout the season, I would say, has still been pretty impressive. Sasha, as a young player, will learn from this because he's gone from being the star during the regular season to the guy in the last 2 weeks who has really, really struggled to even do the basics right. But that comes with experience and that comes with the learning. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens next. Tui Palotu going after Josh Fusitua once again looking for the break, but this time Fusitua's thrown it straight into the hands of Andrew Callaway. I know that the colours are slightly similar between these two sides, but the Waratahs and a little bit more of that light blue, then the dark little kick in behind attempted here from the Tars, and it's out on the full. So both of these sides deciding to go for those out on the full kicks in the last couple of minutes. To be fair, the Chiefs will win the comp. Says Stu's World, and bad day at the office for the Stormers last night, says Gerhard. And we have Scott there. I think the Stormers got overconfident. They played so poor. Yeah, oh no, I read that one. And Havili who? Tava Nawai, please. Says Shane, the man who's got a few weeks off now. Tava Nawai, so he should be fresh for the ABs if he does get selected. Ricky Riccatelli, nicely taken by Patrick Tuipalotu. Bowden Barrett now kicking this one in behind. Caleb Clark goes up, but he hasn't taken it cleanly. And again, the possession is being given away by the Blues. Waratahs. Looks like they're willing to go for a kick here very shortly as well. Both sides deciding to go more territory-based in the last little while. Maybe that's actually just a stamina thing, because they did go flat out for about 12 or 13 minutes at the start of this contest. Both sides are probably like, look, we need a little bit of a spell. We need to catch our breath. Get that gas tank back full. Currently, the Blues, they have got this ball now 40 metres out from their own line. Mark Talia doesn't often like to pass, so he runs straight at Tongan Thor. Now again, back across to the left-hand side to Oskin Satutu, and Angus Bell on the ball manages to win the penalty. I was sad I woke up early for a win, and next minute we carking it. Says Uraf. And Angus Bell doing great in the breakdown there, managing to steal it back for the Waratahs. Okay, I think that the Waratahs, they should opt for 3 here, just to get some form of points at this stage of the contest. Yes, they're down by 5, but another penalty in the near future could put them up to 6-5. A good tackle made by Jamie Adamson, and then Angus Bell just getting on it lightning quick. Now the Waratahs, this is not an easy kick though, probably about 42, 43 metres out. I can smell a Tars try coming. You aren't going to beat the Blues in 3s, says Kiwi Rob. You may not beat them with 3s, but multiple teams have beaten them by less or by 3 throughout the season. So it's a good start anyway. If you've gone 22 minutes without scoring any form of points. Jack Bowen, though, not the greatest kicking accuracy I've just seen in terms of throughout his kicks this season. We'll definitely want to make sure this one goes over. From about 40 out, and does just that. So the score now 5 points to 3. And Kiwi Rob, the Brumbies cough cough. Really boring crowd, says Dewswell. Well, there's only probably 10% of Eden Park, or maybe 20, and there are a lot of seats empty. So, of course, at a big stadium with a lower number crowd, it's not going to feel like a huge atmosphere. Now, going to be kicked off by Bowden Barrett. Nicely taken by Amato Cero. Going to be about 22 metres out from the line now. It's not the crowd, it's the stadium, says Michael. Exactly. Like, you can't have a very small attendance in a big stadium and make it seem like it's a crazy atmosphere. It just doesn't really work. Now, kicking this one downfield, doesn't manage to find touch with it. So the Blues now counter-attacking chance on the halfway line. Will they run it or will they kick it? They have decided to have a bit of a run. Talia shut down, though, by Hugh Sinclair. MG will sell out next week and the week after, and if they win their semis, a sell out for the final. Says Novman, what's the FMG attendance in terms of their capacity? We'll have a quick look. FMG Stadium Waikato has attendance capacity of 25,000. Now, Muller has gone into Dutch. It will be the Waratahs who have now got the line-out opportunity. And we have there one in the hand as we have 2 in the bank. Always take the points, says Shane. Yeah, and I feel like it's the thing. The Waratahs will still get more opportunities to score points in this game. Has Talia ever passed the ball? Very rarely, but when he does, it's normally effective because in the nicest way possible, the opposition aren't really expecting it. So it actually works in their favour a little bit at times, the Blues, as they all get lured in to try and defend him. Surely they should have been a larger crowd for the Blues' last game of the season. Maybe. Oh, knockout. Unfortunately for one of the Tahs. Oh no, he's woken up. He's good to go. And the ball is lost. Tahs back in position. Now trying to get the fending was Henry O'Donnell. Pops it up to Langy Glees. Another tackle made by Dalton Papali'i. Teddy Wilson goes off to a Matasero. Renata has to tackle him. Now back into the pocket. They aren't able to kick this one into touch for the 50-22 as it was taken back. You sounding great, Hamish. Cheers for the live stream and awesome commentary, says John. Thank you very much. We are back, of course, just around the corner for the Hurricanes versus Moana game. That will also be a very important one in terms of who makes their way through to the playoffs and also in regards of what number they come in ranked. And we have got the come on the Blues, says Urafu. Almost dropped that ball, Bowen. Now Lawson Creighton moves to about 45 metres out from his line. And the team of the 11 don't care about who wins Super Rugby. Oh, drop ball from Joey Walter, making a bit of a mistake, and it's going to be now knocked on by the Blues, so they will go back for the original scrum. I think you're only saying that because the Blues won't win. So here's team of the 11th, and we have got their Hamish in general. Is rugby tickets affordable? Depends on where you sit at the games. The likes of, like, for our tickets when we went to the contest between the Highlanders Crusaders last week, that was why we were away on the Friday night. But our tickets to be probably about 6th row, 7th row up, around the 25-ish metres out from the line, were $62 each, which is, that's a bit pricey. But at the same time, like, it depends on where you sit. Like, we could have gone in the KFC, like, social area for $15 type of thing. Second, the great commentary, says Michael. And we have got there the cowboy emojis there from Demon the 11th. Now it's going to be the scrum for the Blues after the first knock-on came from the Waratahs. Just seems like at the moment we're on the cusp of something else big happening, whether that's going to be an intercept. We have good there. I don't care. I think we should play games at the same time, not giving a team 3 hours to know what to do. Right. I see. So, okay. I don't even want to go into that one because I feel like in terms of viewership-wise, there's no way that Super Rugby would agree to that, because if they did, then they would lose a whole heap of revenue from broadcasting in terms of the ads that they can run throughout the games. They would lose probably a few people from the attendance side of things because people will want to know what's happening in the other contests. Hi, Hamish. Or hi, hello, says Lave. Welcome in. Stu's got the snoring emoji in there. I'll ask you a question, Stu, since you're in such a negative mood. Anything about this game that you can feel positive about? Just out of curiosity, I think non-stop whining from you since you came into the stream today. So maybe bad sleep from last night. Now Bowden Barrett manages a sneak through the gap. Caleb Clark on the outside to Mark Delia. He's already got one, and he's going to be just short, and I think he went into touch there. Now AJ Lamb with the pick and go. They'll be about a metre short of the try line, but I believe the TMO will be checking that one now. But if it's not a no try, Rico has just scored it. And apparently tickets for the Box versus Barbars next month, Greenpoint Stadium, quite pricey, says Gerhardt. And we have got their nobody pick this weekend's teams are playing for their season, says Michael. And let's go, says Uraf. But Rico Ioane, his third try. I just want to see the feet of Mark Talia here, as he was right next to the sideline. We see that beautiful line from Bowden Barrett. Got it away to Caleb Clark, and then Talia here. I think his foot was really close to being out, and I'm extremely surprised we haven't seen a replay of it. You would assume if it was out, with it being in Auckland, they would not want to show that on the big screen. I thought the TMO would have checked it, so I assume it's all clear. Yeah, not even a replay of it in this one. And let's go, says you're rough, and can I complain about the poor Stormers defence from yesterday? There's probably plenty to complain about for the Stormers and what they did. I think his right knee is in touch. You see, I thought as he rotated, maybe he let the ball go before that foot did touch the line, but it did look extremely close. But, yeah, no replay, so we go on. Now, lining up this kicker will be Bowden Barrett. Hi, Amos. Good to see you, mate. Says Daniel, and you will be seeing us quite a bit today. We have got 5 live streams. Oh, what's happened here with Bowden? He decided to put the ball down next to the tee. Oh, they're checking the foot, I believe. Oh, no, they're saying there might be a knock-on from Caleb Clark, is what the Waratahs are wanting to see here. They did not even show the replays. Yeah, it's a bit weird when that happens. But I think the TMO, Bowden's still going to be able to kick this one, but then from there they can still check it, I believe. Barrett misses away to the left-hand side again. Right, obviously everything was cleared. I'm trying to listen to Nick Berry and see what he's saying to one of the Waratahs players. And it's something that both AJ Lamb and Rico are good at, is the support play. Caleb Clark got it away to Talia. This will be the angle. Carlton Nunn has just seen the replay and he said, oh, geez, as if to say, checked off, signed off, they've said. So it must not have been out. It was close, though. I would have liked to see a replay. But Corey Evans, now moving forward, about 30 metres out the line here for the Blues. Caleb Clark. It's already a great start to this contest. Do you think the Blues deserve to make the playoffs on what kind of season they have had? Honest answer, I would say, like, with 6 teams going through, they're thereabouts. But I don't think, in terms of the overall competition, this is not just a shot at the Blues. But if you have a less than 50% win rate for the season, I always think maybe you're doing well to make it through to the playoffs. Like, we look through at the URC, for instance, like, they're around that same mark for a lot of those sides because of those bonus points. Like, say, Edinburgh, they're 8 and 9. But, yeah, it's right on the verge. The top 6 is an interesting choice, and we're going to see it in action to see whether or not it's effective for the comp in the future, or whether they will make the change next year. Oh, yeah, there's Papali'i playing. He is at the moment. We haven't seen a huge amount of him. He's made quite a few tackles, though. So working away on defence. Tutu having to make the tackle there on the sniping runner, Teddy Wilson. Now, going back across to the right-hand side. Another big attacking run from Fergus Lee Warner. Trying to make their way forward just that little bit further here for the Waratahs. Back across to the right-hand side. Now pick and go. We have got there, who was it that got injured in the Crusaders game last night? So Ethan Blackadder went off, I believe, at halftime. I don't know if that was injury-based or just easing him back into it. Braden Enor's done something to his ribs. So he looked like he wasn't really going to be doing too flash. And I think Dallas McLeod also went off with an injury for the Crusaders as well. But now, ball available for the Tars after 15 phases of attack here. Blues still defending nicely. And no penalty advantage against them as of yet. So that is a massive bonus too. Daniela Tupou trying to get rid of Lachlan McWannell out of their side of the ruck. Still slowly but surely. That might have been a turnover there for the Blues. Nope, they're told to get out of it. Now Adamson, pick and go again here. Just slowly building advantage in through the side from Dalton Papali'i. He's not happy about it, but that is a bad advantage to be given away this close to their try line. Langy Gleeson trying to drive. Lachlan McWannell and Segner both on it, so they will go back for the original penalty. Now we have got there Kiwi Roberts, Scarlett beat Leinster tomorrow morning. You owe me a chocolate cake, says Dem in the 11th. There's a camera right on dead ball line. One moment, where'd that go? In line with the touch, but would not show that angle. Yeah, even like just a quick one to clear it so that everyone who thought, oh, that was close can go, okay, it wasn't. Because who knows, maybe his foot was like this high off the ground, you know? Oh, okay, they're actually going for the 3 points again here, the Waratahs. What kind of injury has Will Jordan suffered? It was lower leg, but he's all right in 1 or 2 weeks, I believe they've said, in terms of his time. The game stopped for about 12 minutes and the player was then carted off, says Matthew. Or was that Quintupaya that you're thinking of? That game did stop for a long time for him to make his way off the field. Right, chance here for Jack Bowen. He's sitting 1 from 1. And Taza stupid going for threes, says Kiwi Rob. Although we can only call them stupid if they lose the game. Like if they somehow get over the line and it's by a narrow margin, then we've got to say, look, the threes were obviously the right choice as it kept them in the game long enough. Papali'i looking very angry at the moment. I would say that is because he gave away that penalty is a good thing. That if the ref's decision and not the TMO, or do we want TMO all the time? It's a tricky balance because it depends on who you ask as well. Some people are firmly against the TMO and just want to see referees. But then when a decision isn't given as a try on field and a TMO overrules it, then they're normally in favour of the TMO. That's kicked out on the full from the Waratahs. Just a bit too much juice on that one. One moment, I'm about to sneeze, so we will quickly mute. We are good. And Tars stupid going for, says Daniel. And give the Blues score one more try. I'd like to think so. If they don't do it in the first half, they should certainly be able to do it in the second. But they've got a great opportunity now. 30 metres out from the Waratahs line. And I would say they'll get this rolling maul set and moving. Nice take from Patrick Tuipolotu. And now the rolling maul does start to move. Although taken early by Ricky Riccatelli and breaks away. Tackled low by Teddy Wilson. Oh, that's a lot of players in off their feet for the Blues. To be fair, though, I think the Waratahs player lost his footing too. And that's going to be a knock-on from the Blues. Oh, okay. Nick Berry said, oh, sorry, got that one wrong. It's a knock-on against the Waratahs. Which does mean the Blues will have the scrum from the referee era. In future, there will be no field refs and only TMO. Hashtag Eagle Eyes. Says Xander. Well, we might even lose the TMO. Like, to be fair, in the future, people have been saying just don't have refs at all and just have it like all like kind of computer run, which I think would be a bit rough. But it's a tricky one, isn't it? Like, at the end of the day, there are a lot of games for referees. Like, they are humans as well. They make mistakes just like the players, you know? Players can knock the ball on multiple times in a game. Referees sometimes can get it slightly wrong, but there's normally enough time outside of a poor referee decision or a couple poor referee decisions for that to be able to still get back into the game, if that makes sense. Like, sometimes, yes, it can be pretty bad, and if it's late in the game, it normally makes a difference, but sometimes it's just the case of a side just needing to do more outside of that time. As a meal, do refs let a lot of diving off the feet go? Yeah. Although it's all done it's all based on whether or not the player pulls out or not in terms of the guy who is standing there. Nice drop from AJ Lamb onto his boot, and Rico has got, I believe, his second. And AJ Lamb, casual as you like, just slips it down there on the grubber, and Ioane gets a double. He's moved up to 53 for the season. He has got 4, ladies and gentlemen. AJ Lamb, that's a perfect kick. In behind, saw the space, beauty, says Bill. And we have, I think we should have a bunker, says Kiwi Rob. And can Barrett convert it, says Tommy. He should be Ioane, 2 hands on the thing as he slammed it onto the Eden Park turf. Is it close to the poles? Close enough, but Bowden has missed 2 today. So, like, this one's probably 19 metres out. Little bit of an angle out to the right. Now I have all the replay angles, says Michael. And now Barrett. Oh, he almost hit the right-hand post, but it has gone over for Barrett. It's going to make the score now 17 points to 6. I need the conversion, says Tommy. Well, he did get the conversion for you. You have to send him a thank you message. And good morning, Amos from Durban. I admire your stamina. I had a night's sleep and you're already in action. Thank you for your dedication to use your viewers, says Brian. No worries at all. And we have still got another 4 matches that we are covering today. Hurricanes versus Moana Pacifica will be the next one. Then from there, we're into the quarterfinals of the URC. 3 games back to back to back. Halftime, please, says Tommy. So what is your bet, Tommy, that you need? Is it like a certain number of points leading for the Blues, or is it only a certain number of points being scored in the half or something? I think Leroy Kana and Timothy Tavatavanawa and Fabian Holland should surely be in that All Blacks environment, says Lave. And good to see Rico scoring points again. He gets way too much negative critique, says Matthew. That one's going to be kicked downfield by the Blues. Waratahs once again, another chance to be able to get that counter-attack going. Lawson Creighton with a great offload. Finley Christie having to make the tackle there. Now back across to the left-hand side of Mato Cero. Lawson Creighton goes off to Langy Gleeson. Offload there to Joey Walton. Now pick and go from Teddy Wilson. He quite enjoys doing those ones, the little burst around the side. And the Blues have left a little bit of a space for him to be able to do so. Now that's a bad move, I think, from the Waratahs. Henry O'Donnell tries to cross-kick. It goes into touch. And now the Blues have the line out. Just don't think that was the right choice. 10-point lead, mate, says Tommy there. And Rico's speed was good there. Is Callaway that quick when he caught Rico earlier? Honestly, when you look at the replay of him chasing Rico down, the man just looked like, I compared it to a bulldog chasing a ball. Now, he was just locked in and was not going to let him outrun him. But yeah, Callaway's quick. Probably an underrated speedster for the Aussies. Of course, it's normally the new shiny youngsters who get a lot of praise in terms of how fast they are, the likes of a Corey Toole or a Tim Ryan, but Callaway can keep up with most of them. Nicely taken. Lawson Creighton around the halfway line. Goes to Hoskins Satutu, or at least gets tackled by Satutu, and has dropped the ball on the ground. Another mistake being made by this Waratahs side. Yes, Callaway underrated, says Michael, and a lot of errors in the first half from both teams, says Tom. Yeah, probably a few too many from, like, not by massive amounts, like one or two too many errors, I would say, from these sides. But if they play a lot more clinical of the second half, they should be fine. I'd say good afternoon, Hamish. Sorry I'm late. I'm nursing a severe hangover, says Christopher. Well, hopefully you are feeling a lot better. What were you either celebrating or drinking to forget, Christopher, in that case? Now scrum feed, just the 1 minute remaining on the clock here. I think that the Blues, from where they are on the field, about 42 metres out from their own line, they should be able to still have one last attacking chance. I don't think they'll just boot this ball into touch unless they're trying to save a bit of stamina. Can we drug test Rico as this is out of character for him, says Stu's World? Or is it just the fact that he's got AJ Lamb back in that midfield combo with him and they're playing with confidence with their backline, the Blues, rather than just shoveling it on to the forwards? But now out on the outside, Corey Evans bops it back on the inside of Bowden Barrett, goes for the chip in behind. Mark Delia chasing after, and no option there. But for the Waratahs to force it down. Now, this was right on the halftime siren too, so they will be checking it. But the Blues think that they've scored this one. Okay, forward pass up there, says Lawson Creighton, but they are saying that there's no clear grounding from the Waratahs here. And Lamb is pretty good, says Stu's World. Yeah, definitely an AB's bolter, I would say, the way that he's been playing lately. Okay, caught behind. Not sure if the Waratahs have grounded it or not, is the comment there from Nick Berry. Bit of both. It was a public holiday in Taiwan yesterday, so we celebrated that with a braai. I drank to forget that I'm poor and have to work for a living, says Christopher there. Well, hopefully the braai was good, at least. Right, they're just checking this one. So he takes it back. That's a weird one, because he's dragged the ball back into his in-goal area, and then it's kind of popped up out of his hand, and then Talia's picked it up and grounded it. So I think they're just checking for the forward pass. That might actually be a bit of a saving grace for the TMO here, because this one will be a hard one to decide on. Because I don't necessarily... Oh, that's a bit of a... Like, he's halfway used his shoulder. They're going to award the try here for Mark Talia, and he has got his double in his return as well. So him and Rico scoring 2 tries apiece in the first half. And the Blues now in a very comfortable position going into the second. Right, that kick has gone over, and that is going to make the score 24 points to 6 now, heading into the second half. Oh, you make your own luck, says Sally. Yeah, it was just a little bit too scrappy from the Waratahs when they were trying to get that ball back down. And a bit of a, I guess you could call it a defensive error, but it was also a very well-weighted kick that went only a couple metres out. Try time, it's lost by the Tars before the line, says Kiwi Rob. Although it wouldn't matter if it's lost by him before the line if he had grounded it in the in goal. But he unfortunately was unable to do so. Had it kind of pop out of his hands like he squeezed it, and it was just that little bit too slippery to be able to get it down. But Mark Talia, good follow-up. Being able to get there and kind of create his own chance. Update Blues 101 and Waratahs 31. And thanks, mate. What a stressful half, says Tommy Peterson. But yeah, in the end, they're leading by 18 now for the Blues. So a lot more comfortable than it looked at times. But maybe they're starting to find that rhythm. They may just be doing what some people feared, and that is peaking at the right time in this competition. I mentioned it from the get-go that even if the Blues are struggling throughout the rest of the season, I wouldn't want to play them in the playoff games. I need your opinion on the Hurricanes game. Do you think it was going to be close? It's a very hard one to say because, like, Moana are coming off an 85-0 loss. Or not quite 85-0. It was about an 80-point loss, wasn't it? They did score one, Adi Savia. But, like, it's so hard to know if that's going to fire them up. They did beat them last time. I still think there was a 4-pass for the try, says Pat Starr. From the sounds of it, they did also check that one. And it seemed to be all right, but it's very hard to say, isn't it? And once again, we didn't get a replay of it, so we didn't really get to see it after it happened either. Hurricanes versus Chiefs final, and wow, Blues finally woke up. Finals footy, think TYM, says Shane. And Waratahs have fallen too far behind, need a miracle second half to win, says Xander. Yeah, it's going to have to be a big one if they want to find a way back into this contest. Now, the thing is, though, I don't want to be too harsh, right? And I don't think this is harsh. This is just more stating what can happen. But the Blues are putting great pressure on at the moment in terms of that table. The Waratahs have to find a way, if they want to try and upset the Blues and stop them from going further, they have to try and find a way of cutting out this Blues bonus point for 3 or more tries ahead. Now, the Blues have currently scored 4, which means the Waratahs would need 2 tries before they even cancel it out, and that is without the Blues scoring any more tries throughout the second 40. If the Blues do get that bonus point, it means that the Hurricanes, they would need pretty much they'd need to stop Moana from getting a bonus point victory over them for 3 or more tries. And I have to say, yes, Moana have been strong with some of their comebacks, but not many of their comebacks have involved winning a game by 3 or more tries. So the Blues, I feel, 100% need this bonus point for the sake of feeling that little bit more safe. I think if the Blues just win this game without the bonus, that fully opens the door for Moana to kind of grind out a 1 or 2 point, 3 point, 4 point victory over the Canes, and that would knock the Blues out. So they need that bonus point. Pretty much the gist of what I said. As Moana won back-to-back games, though, says Kiwi Rob, they have not, but they have won more games than the Blues in the overall standings, which is why they are in the position of, if they do get the same points as the Blues do from their contest, that's why they go through rather than the Blues. Question, if the Chiefs lose against who they play, can they still get a home final? Yes, but it's a lot more tricky. I'm going to go, for instance, just for now, and it's going to change more than likely, right? But just at this very moment, let's just say the Blues have made the top 6 based off this game, okay? So they're sitting there on the 6 wins, so they don't go ahead of the Reds due to the win-loss record. But let's say, for instance, the Blues in 6 beat the Chiefs in first in the playoff game. The Chiefs, because they are the highest ranked side, they do get themselves the lifeline, but they actually, because they lost in the playoffs, they would drop 1 rank. So let's just say the Crusaders win their semi, the Chiefs would drop below them. Crusaders would then have the home final if they were to win their semi. But for the Chiefs to get the home semi from there, it would mean that they have to win their semi-final, and whoever was the top-ranked side then have to lose. So pretty much the easiest example, like I said, is the Chiefs. But if anyone else ends up losing, then it gets a little bit more complicated. Pretty much if all of the favourites win their games, the top 4 remains in the semi-finals. That's the easiest way. but there could be an upset somewhere along the line. We have their cameraman and woman should not be allowed to constantly replay instance to try and milk a penalty from the ref, says Uraf. And I think the overall forwards pack firepower, the back line will beat the Moana team, says Stu. And we have got their Hurricanes by 10, says Stu's World. And I can't recall the Tars having a comeback win this season. So the writing is on the wall, says Michael. And yeah, they have often slowed down in the second period of a contest, which will not bode well for them with the Blues now starting to really find their rhythm. They are looking like a much better side than we've seen in a few of their recent games, which is great news for them, and they just have to keep on going. And we have got their no. Do you think that Kiwi coaches should be allowed to coach foreign teams? I mean, a big example of when it really tore opinions was when Brendan McCullum took on the England coaching for the cricket. How a lot of Kiwis from that moment said it's not fair, but then they wouldn't give him a job as a coach. Joey Walton just showing some of the highlights from that Tars midfield, but I think that Rico and AJ have definitely stepped up throughout this game, hoping Bulls pull it through. Paul Mark from 2 Cents needs it after this season, says Christopher DeVette. I hope the Blues rather than the Bulls in there. But yeah, they've had such a up and down season, the Blues, but they've still got enough great players and they've got the ability to still, this is going to be a statement that people will straight away disagree with, but they've still got the players to win Super Rugby Pacific. They haven't had the form at times throughout this season. They had a pretty rough start with some really tough matches that they were going head-to-head with some of the other Kiwi sides, but with the group that they've got and the fact that now Talia's back, Clark's come back from his injury a few weeks ago, they've got Satutu Segner's back from his injury, you've got Tui Pilotu, Lachlan McWannell, and a few guys in All Blacks contention in the front row. Like, this is a strong enough side to win the comp. It's whether or not their performances on the field replicate that, though. And the big thing for the Blues so far this season, you'd say it hasn't, but they've still got those guys that can do it. Keep it up in your Blues. You're in Blues kick. The threes also, says Shane. And we have got the yes, Kiwi coaches should be allowed to coach anywhere. Their talent and knowledge is wanted. Got to eat somehow. Yeah, that's true. Like, I guess if you're in Kiwi Rob's world, if you want an international coaching role and you don't get it, and then if there aren't jobs available in terms of the lower sides, in terms of Super Rugby, provincial sides, you just have to get another job that's not coaching in Kiwi Rob's eyes. And we have good there, hey bro, you're hard at work again. I don't support the Blues, but I'm back in the Kiwi side, says Matt. And it's been a mostly down season for the Blues, let's be honest. True, but I wouldn't want to play them in playoff rugby. I feel like they are the dark horse that could just cause an upset and kind of do what the Chiefs did last year with the Canes and cause one of those top sides to go home. Now, the good news for the Chiefs, if they were going to be playing the Blues in the round of 6, I guess you could call it, the playoff finals, even if they were to have a bit of a shaky one and the Blues somehow won that game, they would still get to play in the next round. Where are the Blues on the table? They are currently 7th, but live standings has them 6th. So pretty much, if they get themselves a bonus point win here, the only team that can catch them is Moana Pacifica, but they would have to win by 3 or more tries over the Hurricanes. Points differential, of course, heavily in favour of the Blues compared to Moana, but that doesn't actually affect it, as it does mean that it's based off win and loss record. But it would be interesting if the Blues were able to actually make it into the top 6, because then everyone with a plus points differential actually made it, and everyone with a minus points differential did miss out. And there is a very big gap, as you can see, between the top and the bottom in terms of points differential. The Force conceding the most in terms of that differential throughout the season, whereas the best of those slightly lower sides, you know, the Highlanders, they're sitting at the bottom, but only minus 90 in the differential side of things. Just haven't been able to win enough of their close games to get through. Artie Savi to score 3. And we have got there, we trained these coaches up with knowledge, and they are then brought in and weaponized against us. Cheers, Shane. Can't wait for playoffs. Going to be awesome, says Matt. And we have got there, where are the Blues on? I read that one, didn't I? In regards to the coaches, though, would you rather... It's a tricky one to ask, of course, because it can be interpreted in different ways. But Would you rather a Kiwi coach goes overseas, makes himself a lot of money, and makes World Rugby as a whole more competitive? Or would you rather have like about a 2 or 3 horse race in the world of rugby and everyone else miles behind and not really having the, I guess, resources or the ability to catch up quickly like they have now? You know, you look at the South African coaches around the world, you look at the Kiwi coaches, like what they've been able to do for some of the sides is absolutely awesome because we're now having competitive competitions in regards of, you know, we've got a comp coming up soon that's going to be the top 12 sides going head to head. And, you know, most of those sides have a pretty good shot of beating each other. We did not train them with knowledge. They, like us, who played rugby, learned on the field. Says you're rough. That's how I feel about McCullum and Southey coaching England. Says Matt. Do you think the Blues have had many ref decisions against them this year? Everyone talking about coaching is approaching it from a passion and hobby viewpoint, whereas it's a job. You want to be upset if your friend took an overseas job. It's the same thing, says Pat Starr. Yeah, and like you said, it's where that passion and whatnot kind of comes into it. You know, if you're working at one company and then you go to another company, like, yes, it's slightly different, but you are going to still have that knowledge from your previous company that you're bringing to the new company. And if that makes that new company better, are you a traitor to your old company because, you know, you left them to try and chase the bigger opportunity and the bigger payday? Most people probably say yeah, because it was a terrible analogy, but yeah, it's one of those ones. Coaches, they have worked hard to get into the position that they are, to be able to help sides develop. That's what your job is as a coach. You're not just there to collect a paycheck and then get sacked, which has happened quite a bit in the world of coaching. If you're a good enough coach that you can earn a payday overseas while doing it, go for it. Looking at the benches for these two sides, ladies and gents. Harry Plummer, Cole Forbes, the two back replacements alongside Sam Knocker's halfback. They've got Ta'aval, Adrian Choke, Kurt Eklund still there at number 16. Mafai Lanu to add that physicality for the Tars. Jack Grant, Tane Edmed off the bench rather than in the starting side. And then Darby Lancaster, there is the number 23. Now, he has got a lot of pace. We talked about Callaway's pace. Lancaster can run pretty quickly. Will be a hard man to catch if he gets that breakaway. I told him, mate, I think we should lose now and then. In 2014, he said, nah, best we just win. Says Mr. All-In. And my rugby premiership team won 34 points to 28, up the Crusaders. Says Ange, and congrats, Ange, good on the team. Says you're rough. In there as well. Second half of this contest, very close to taking place. Of course, this is the first of 5 games that we have got on the channel. The next one will be the Hurricanes taking on Moana Pacifica. That has taken place at 7. Speaking of coaches, what is Warren Gatlin doing nowadays? I actually don't know what he's decided to do. He's probably made enough money that he could comfortably retire, but he might look at coaching someone else. The Wales one for him just never really worked out, unfortunately, this time round. But, yeah, it'll be interesting to see where Wales go from here. Depends if they beat the All Blacks. Hated Robbie Deans because he went to Australia, was Scary Bledisloe. Says Shane. So you're saying that a coach is allowed to go overseas if he makes sure that he can't beat New Zealand in a match. So if he can make them good but not good enough, he's all right. And Gats is ready to take the All Blacks job if Fraser stuffs up, says you're rough. And Gatlin crying somewhere, probably crying in a mansion, I would say he's probably in at the moment, isn't he? He won't be living too badly, I wouldn't think, Warren Gatlin. He made a lot of money throughout his career from coaching. Being a coach of a national team isn't the same as being a James Lowe or a Bundy Arkey, says Pleshin. And up the Hurricanes and Moana Pacifica, says Ange. Fleshin, I'm sure you're starting to get a little bit nervous. Of course, early morning start for yourself. Scarlet's game fast approaching. How much dollars do international coaches make? I think Rassie makes about £800,000 a year. We'll see Warren Gatland wage. I think Gatlin is in Japan, so yeah, he'll be getting good money over there. Welsh Rugby, we're paying him annually £580,000. So that's like 1 million New Zealand dollars, maybe even a little bit more. You know, he's getting paid, I would say, actually, now that I think about it, he's probably getting paid more than every single Welsh player who was on the field playing for him. So, like, he won't be living too badly, I wouldn't think. Good morning from South Africa. Have a blessed weekend, everyone, says Johan. And of course, two South African sides in action for the URC. Bit later on, we will be covering those ones on the channel. Also scheduling them in between these two streams. But the Blues, they have got the early possession in the second half and a nice 18-point lead here, which does put them in the box seat. Dave Rennie also. But if they came second to us, I'm okay with that, says Shane. He's with Fozzie, says Patrick. And I think coaches and rugby players should if you money. Should if me money. I'm confused by that, Sally. You might have to elaborate a little bit. And go the Blues, says Paul. Now nicely taken by the Tars. Sitting about 35 metres out from their line. He's just loading up for another tricky subject, I'll give you wrong. All right, blow the whistle there from Nick Berry. Should get if you money. Should get if you... Should get... So you've said the same thing again. I'm still confused. Like, if all money, are you saying? Like, they should get less money? Is that the gist of it? Maybe? It's that little... That you in there has got me confused. 6 mil is good if you money is a lot of... Oh, okay. A lot of money. I get you. And out, nicely taken there on the halfway line from Hugh Sinclair. Tristan Riley with a short pass. Gone off to the right, and now they're slinging it out wide. Finds Andrew Callaway, who tries to chip in behind, but claimed by Dalton Papali'i. Currently 42 minutes through this contest, and for the Blues, all they have to do is just close this game out, which is easier said than done, but 18 points up should be well and truly achievable. And we have good there. Evening, Kiwi lads, everyone. Hi. What do they at work? I just got home, guys. Need a shower. How's my Blues? They're doing much better this game. They've looked clinical at times. Mark D'Elia scoring 2. Rico Ioane also scoring 2. So, yeah, doing pretty nicely at the moment. Teddy Wilson. We need to roll this one back, and it will be another box kick. And the more time that they spend, a little bit of push and shove there between Taniela Tupou and Ricky Riccatelli. They look like there were almost going to be punches thrown between those two. I might go the Bulls later today. Or let's go the Bulls, says Paul. Yeah, it should be a good game. I think that they are the second biggest favourite of the weekend for the URC, and rightfully so. They're looking pretty handy, still bored. I'm surprised you've stuck around if you've been bored of this game the whole time, Stu, though. Like, surely you could watch something else during the same period of time if you're not enjoying the rugby. Well, there'd be a game on somewhere. Titans playing the Storm at the moment in the NRL, 6 points to 4. Could be worth a crack. That one's going to be thrown in. Caller not straight from the Blues. Not a caller not straight from the referee, though. So will we play on now? Quick hands from Lawson Creighton. He's had a pretty decent game with what has happened throughout this matchup. And once again, they have managed to drive them into touch. Some nice physicality shown by Rico Ioane. Him and Bowden Barrett have now both pushed a guy into touch. And like I've said, it's just that defense. It's been causing all sorts of issues. Right, we'll go like that. And like that as well. Now, line out throw here for Ricky Riccatelli. Goes to the front and will pin his ears back. Tries to spin, but he is bundled into touch now too. Both of these sides at the moment just managing to, I guess, cancel each other out quite nicely. Just the way that it does currently sit. All right, we will go like that. And we will go like that as well. There we go. I was just checking to see if the Waratahs had any sort of chance. They don't really at the moment in terms of the odds. But if they were to score now, maybe the slight chance of a comeback is on, but it's not a massive one by any means of the word. Dave Parecki now rolling more here for the Tars, 30 metres out from their own line. Go the Waratahs, their team. And we have got their Chiefs will win Super Rugby 2025. Even I am a Crusaders fan, says Ange. Now popped up to Corey Evans. Tackled low by O'Donnell, about 42 metres out the line. Christie Bowden Merritt tries to chip him behind. AJ Lamb was looking for it. Taniela Tupou has to retreat, throws it away. And the Waratahs, they've gone from being about 25 metres out from their line to now having to try and scramble only 3 metres out. Counter ruck coming from the Blues. And they've all but got that ball. Nick Berry was about to put the hand out, and it looks like the turnover is good for this blue side. Tui Pelotu pops it up to Corey Evans. And I would like to think now that has secured that bonus point. First try of the second half goes the way of the Blues. Are we witnessing the start of the season comeback from the Blues here? They will be through to the playoffs if they continue playing this way, and if Moana cannot win their game up against the Tahs by 3 tries. Keep it going, boys, says Mr. Orland. It's going to be interesting when Andre Pollard joins the Bulls, says Paul. Yeah, it'll be very intriguing to see what he can do with that side, whether or not... Well, that's the thing. They might win the URC this year. So if they win it this year, some would even argue that they don't need him. But he's still going to be a massive signing to have. It is a little bit more depth maybe to the Champions Cup squad as well. Have a bit more going in both comps. Is Crusaders Chiefs final a possibility? It certainly is, yes. Both sides win their playoff games. Then both sides win their respective semis. And then both can meet in the final. Bowden Barrett has got that kick over. Makes the score now 31 points to 6. The Blues really starting to run away with it now. Tui Pelotu takes the contact from Tristan Riley, and Tupou Hamilton boys high. Do not teach Thor to throw the ball away like that. That is a Wallaby trait, says Yuraf. Now Finley Christie going off to the right-hand side. It looks like now they are going to be going for the kick up high again. And the territory game has been working quite nicely in their favour throughout this second half. Christie's kicked that one about 3 metres. It's gone pretty much straight up, and now they were about to lose that ball, but it's the scramble from the Blues afterwards that has been extremely impressive. Oh, Christie took a bit of a knock on the temple there. I think Teddy Wilson apologising to him, giving him a tap, but that was a hard hit in the forehead of Christie. Is the Hurricanes versus Chiefs final possible? I believe so. But for that to happen, the Chiefs would have to lose their playoff game, or the Reds would have to overtake the Hurricanes, I think, are the 2 ways that can happen. But they are just showing that bench of the Blues. Kurt Eklund waiting eagerly for his opportunity to make his way out onto the park. They've got a very capable bench here too. And I feel like at this point in time for the Blues, you've got to be a little bit strategic here. You got to think 30 minutes remaining in this game. That's where you start making a few changes. You don't want to risk any injuries here as they get closer to those playoff games, if they are through, that is. But they've done what they need to in this contest. Now it's just a case of hoping that the Hurricanes can get the job done as well. Rico needs to mark Colby at Eden Park. Their best tackle line breaker. Or the best line breaker, I should say, sorry. Says Shane. Now free kick goes the way of the Waratahs, looking for the 50-22, but it's going to be kicked out about 25 metres from the try line. So if the Blues win with a bonus point, and Moana beat the Canes without a bonus point, the Blues will go through. That is correct, yes. So pretty much the points table, of course, will always win in terms of who goes through. But if the 2 sides at the end of this round end up on the same points, that's where we see the Blues going through. Or sorry, that's where we see Moana going through rather than the Blues. Now thrown into the back from the Waratahs. Nicely sitting up for Langy Gleeson, back across to the right-hand side as they will shift this one with Joey Walton. Bowden Barrett making the tackle there. Teddy Wilson back across to the right-hand side to Gleeson. He's been heavily involved throughout this contest, but still hasn't had that same kind of impact that he perhaps would have liked to. Back across to the left-hand side, short ball to Joey Walton. And Gats was a god for us. His first time at Wales, he was lucky. He had some generational players to work with, probably 2 generations. Says Bleshen. I think Oscar Zatudu was saying to the ref he's holding the ball in. But ref says no. Going off to the right-hand side again here. Sinclair, 30 or so metres out now for the Waratahs. Little bit of a step coming. Looked like maybe a slip actually happening there too for Jack Bowen. Paul's been told to let him go. Rico having a bit of a chat with him too. I think there's some frustration from the Tahs at the moment in terms of there's a few off-the-ball things that are just starting to happen maybe knowing that they haven't got any more games this season if they continue like this. That was a bit too high from AJ Lamb. I think he took a bit of a knock on the chin. And where's Caleb Clark? He has done very well throughout this game, to be fair to him. He's looked good under the high ball at times and also has created quite a few attacking opportunities for the Blues, including that early one where Talia was able to score out wide. It all came from that line break of Caleb Clark. I can't wait to watch the Hurricanes versus Moana Pacifica with you from my phone. Says Ange. See, handling errors at the moment. 8 for the Waratahs, 5 for the Blues. And yeah, that game only an hour and 20 minutes away. And 3 if you include Ireland. Says Uraf. And good hard, you're right, but at the Bulls, but the Bulls are second. And how does that work though? Because Moana Pacifica will be on 7 wins and the Blues will be on 6 wins. So it's down to the way that you said it, I assume is what you meant, and that is the fact that the Blues get a bonus point when Moana don't, but they still win. So Moana would get 4 points, putting them up to 32, but the Blues would be on 33 points. So hopefully that makes sense. So if the Blues get 5 points from their win here, and Moana only get 4 points, if they are able to win, the Blues will go through because they have 1 more point than Moana. Whereas if they end up on the same points, because Moana have had more victories, that is why they would go through to the next stage as a 6-ranked side. Moana will beat the Canes. What do you mean off the ball things happening now? The Blues have been doing that all game, says Stu's World. Yeah, there's a bit of scrappiness going on between these two sides. That's probably the most positive comment you've had, Stu, but of course it's still very negative, but we're getting there. By the end of this game, you may say that someone played well with a little bit of luck. Going off to the left-hand side, AJ Lamb now bumping off. Replacement, Waratahs at 21. What they got as a replacement in this game? I think it's Jack Grant. Oh, nice take from Marcel Renata. The big man in open space. Finley Christie on the outside. He was tackled high, but he's in touch. But I think they need to check this tackle first. And go the Canes, says Paul. I've got there, Moana will get crushed, says Horner. He's going to ground, though, says Nick Berry, so that's why it's not going to be regarded as a high shot. Marcel Renata, of all people to be popping up with that ball in hand, you don't normally expect to see him. Okay, first contact with the shoulder, says Grant Nisbet there. Oh, ball kick dead, and then bounce back. So we'll have to get rid of it again. Vailanu now has made his way onto the field for the Waratahs, and they have retained their line up from only 5 metres out from their line. Langy Gleeson running at Mark Talia. And now, kicking, almost taken out late by Christie. Luckily, managed to slightly pull out of it. Nick Berry is a good ref. No, he's not. You're up. 28 minutes remaining in this game, though, and currently split by 25 points. It's a game-changing or a season-changing type of margin here for the Blues currently. Does mean that Moana will really have to push for tries in the game up against the Canes, which could leave them susceptible to that counter-attack. Loose ball knocked on by Ricky Riccatelli, but first by the Tars. And pulled out. Says Red 7. And Moana Pacific got a hiding last week, so I don't think they recover in time, says Spider Mick. And way back in the day, who was that balded loose hip for the Hurricanes? Bull Allen. And yes, he was Rob. I think we should bring neutral referees, says Kiwi Rob. Like, as in, like, fly them over for the whole season, Kiwi Rob, and pay for their accommodation the whole way. But now, currently at 27 minutes left on the clock. And every time we have a stoppage, this uses up a bit more time that the Blues don't have to worry about. Yes, says Kiwi Rob. I mean, if you tell them, I'm sure Sanzar would have a great meeting with you, Kiwi Rob. You know, you'd be able to tell them all your ideas. They'll probably go no every single time. And then go home. But, like, the biggest problem, I think, with neutral refs is these referees are supposed to be regarded as neutral anyway. But, of course, like, being from a certain, like, country, people always say that it comes with a bias. But sometimes that actually works against the refs because they go the other way because they're trying to not be seen as biased. That's going to go against Taniela Tupou now. I mean, when he got the ball, the crowd would go, Bull. Was that Bull Allen? It might have been. I'm trying to think back one moment. Bull Allen, 57 years old. Okay, so it was a bit longer before I thought it was. 1990s. I just said there, Teni Alatupo, 26 tries up his sleeve. Rest try their best. They only human. Yeah. Like, yes, every once in a while, there could be a bad call, but it's just a part of the game, unfortunately. There are so many laws that can be interpreted differently. How about international refs from overseas that live in New Zealand and Australia? Says Red 7. Are there a large group of them? Because you would need at least... Are you going neutral touch judges as well? Because if that's the case, and I assume neutral TMOs too, each weekend you would need at least 24 international referees from other countries coming to New Zealand or Australia. But now, rolling maul here. That's going to be another advantage. Ball is available now. Christie goes off to the left-hand side. AJ Lamb trying to rip his way through, but Fergus Lee Warner makes a low shot on him. Satutu, a little bit of a slip there. An Aussie ref, George Ayob, favoured the ABs terribly. Aussies hated him, says Honor. And yeah, I feel like we need a lot of refs if we want the ref, or to ref all the games per week, says Red 7. And then you also have the factor of which country do you bring in the overseas refs from, because people feel like certain countries' referees are biased against certain countries. So then you get the same bias just on the bigger scale of international side of things rather than just trans-Tasman. And we have got the air, that's him, he's my age. We in South Africa was just discovering Super Rugby, says Gerhard. That ball's gone into touch for the Blues once again, looking for this rolling maul. They're in the box seat at the moment, and it doesn't seem like, unless something drastic happens, they have any shot of losing this game. Just keeping it under control, and refs are great. They're doing their best. It's a tough job. It is. It's one of those thankless jobs that, like, you could do 100% of things right, but it also comes down to how people interpret it, the laws as well. Because, you know, you could make the perfect call, but people who don't know that law go, no, that's wrong. Or they might know the old law. That looks close to the line. Looking for the grounding in Nick Berry. He's found it off the rolling maul of the Blues. And who is it? Who pops up? It's looking like Ricky Riccatelli underneath that pile of men. And that is going to be the try. They've just said possibly his last game at Eden Park, and refs are great. And Yellow soon, says Mr. Orland. They wouldn't be a mile off the task. The one benefit that they've had is they've given away so many penalties for so many different things that, like, there isn't really one guy who's going to get warned. We need a statement, boys, says Mr. Orland. Aussie crowd boos, Kiwi crowd moose, says Tom. Yeah, the Blues just keeping that one all control. It was almost going to be a yellow had it been no tries. I think Tristan Riley went in through the side there. And we have got, as well, we need a statement. And also that George was a Class A hole, regularly screwed the box, 2 middle fingers for him. Says Gerhard, the kick from Bowden Barrett has gone over. So the 2 extra points now for the Blues. 38 points to 6. They've said well out of reach now for the Tars. There will be no coming back from this scoreline. 6 tries to 0. This has been a statement. Geez, Blues are looking good this week. I wonder what Gump Chocolate we get in next week. Says you rough. It looks like that was actually the last moment for Ricky Riccatelli throughout this game. He will be taken off for Kurt Eklund. And for the last time, Harry Plummer running onto the field before he does head overseas. Well, last game at Eden Park anyway, we should say. Blues are starting to peak at the right time. I think so. I think that throughout this game, they've looked a lot better than they have in some of their recent contests. Now, the Tars maybe haven't been at their best, but I think the Blues have been looking a lot better. And that bodes well for them with only 3 games till a possible title. What does this game do to the Reds? Not a huge amount. If we're being honest, whoever wins this game, well, it depends a little bit because it's still the Hurricanes. They're the side that can cause the Reds problems. If the Hurricanes win with a bonus point, the Reds can't catch them, and the Reds would be locked into 5th. And that would book them the spot up against the Crusaders. Where's Plummer going? He's heading to France. Now line out here for the Waratahs. Strong Blues team equals a strong AB's team. Says Gerhard. Thanks, Ricky. You're a great Hurricanes player, says Stu's World. Overseas ref doesn't work. Say an overseas ref settled in Auckland. Hey, help Auckland. Get my drift. Nobody win. If settled in Waikato, he helped Waikato. Says Spider Mick. And still Blues have discipline and handling errors and decision-making problems. Says Michael. That's a good steal there at line-out time from Lachlan McWannell. Back across to the right-hand side again. Bowden Barrett kicks it in behind. Chote on the field for Segner. Great to see that he made it through the game without any sort of injuries after the amount that he has had in recent times. Bowden Barrett again inside of his 22 will kick this one downfield towards the sideline, and it's a very nice clearance. Looks like 3 New Zealand teams final 4 again, says Michael. What went wrong for the Waratahs here? Worse than Stormers' performance? It's a tricky one to compare because they've been far from their best, but they haven't dropped the ball as much as the Stormers did, but they also haven't scored as many tries as the Stormers did either. So I would say, like, it's a bit of a 50-50 depending on what you're looking at for whether it's worse. All I know is losing by 32 points or more is a bit brutal and definitely not what they would have been wanting for this playoff game. Always up against it at Eden Park, came in as big underdogs, haven't won there in 16 years. The miracle just isn't going to happen today. Tane Edmed going short side off to Angus Bell. Can the Blues beat the Chiefs in the first finals round? If they did, then it would mean that the Chiefs come in possibly as the second-ranked semi-finalists, which means if the Chiefs were to lose their game next week, they would actually lose their home playoff final. Or home final in general, sorry. But they would still have the home semi-final. Now, going back across to the left-hand side, Corey Evans running forward, Christie back into the pocket again, finds Bowden Barrett, who goes with the kick in behind. That's something the Waratahs have given too much of, is space in behind. Harry Plummer, great tackle, and for the third time in this match, we see the Blues bundle a TARS player into touch. That Georgian ref has an agenda against Wales, says Fleshin. And maybe it was the crowd that pulled them off. Or that put them off, says Stu's World. This game was a long time coming. Blues just a good team not to gel at some stage. Or too good of a team not to gel, sorry, is what you said there. Lancaster making his way onto the field for Tristan Riley now. But yeah, like the Blues, like I said earlier on in this live stream, it's bold, the statement, but they've got the players to win the comp. They did it last year, but they haven't played like the champions as of yet. But this kind of game, this performance now, maybe puts them back in contention. But they still have a long way to go. They have to beat the top of the table Chiefs next week. If they do go through, we need to remember, if Moana somehow win by 3 tries over the Hurricanes, the Blues, no matter how good this game is, they don't get to play in the next round. Bowden Barrett almost managing to sneak through for a try of his own. He probably deserves it. He's had some poor kicks near the start of this game, but has really built into it in the last little while. They are just showing the live table. And the Blues currently in 6th. It's only the TARS, says Michael. And also good luck to the Chiefs. It'll be a hard game for them, says Highlanders. But yeah, in terms of only being the Waratahs, I still do think, I mean, you look at the games between the Chiefs and the Blues this year, how close some of them have been, or one of them in particular was, like, the Blues can be a bogey team for a lot of sides. And they've been so close to winning multiple games. Maybe it's the playoffs that they start winning them. Now going to be the advantage now in favour of the Waratahs. Tane Edmed trying to break his way through. Reds are lucky they have the 7 wins. They could have had a must-win game, says Highlanders. True. And it just shows how important those close victories can be for sides. The early victories in the season too kind of give you a little bit of extra oomph near the end of the comp. Now, back across to the right. Chance for the Waratahs. Joey Walton tries the little chipper behind, and once again it just goes into touch. But they did have the advantage. The Waratahs are a good team on paper. Yeah, although going into this contest with no Suali'i, it's a little bit similar to what the Crusaders have when they don't have Will Jordan. It just seems like a whole different side when they're out there on the park. Barrett scores. I still won't get his goal-kicking goal. Oh, I won't let his goal-kicking goal. He needs to hook up with Daryl Halligan, says Uraf. That's the first negative thing I've heard you say all game, Hamish. What was that one that I said? I don't even remember what it was. The Tars not having their best. I don't even remember what it was. You're going to have to remind me, Stu. Of course you would remember, wouldn't you? And we have got their agree. They should be able to hang for a 1 to 12 against the top 3. So here's Mr. All-In. A line-out throw here for Vailanu. Or was it the Bowden Barrett couple missed kicks or poor kicks early on, but then came right as the match progressed? So it's kind of a negative turned into a positive, isn't it? But now big run forward for Thomas Lambert. Pick and go again. Jack Grant. Oh, that was close to Talitana. Oh, referee just swore there. He said, "Oh, S word. I'm sorry." He got in the way of the attack. There's no way Barrett should be picked ahead of McKenzie, yet Razor will pick him. Okay, can't allow that turnover because there's a man in there, so it's becoming unplayable, and the Waratahs will have themselves the scrum. Like they said, just ended up in the wrong place, wrong time. A true negative turned into a positive, says Stu. And Daryl Halligan, great Kiwi kicker, was a Union player, then moved to league. There were a few of those guys from Union. Nick Berry really tried to dodge Jack Grant, but really just ended up more in his way, I would say. 15 minutes left on the clock. Eden Park for the last time this season. We get to see the Blues in action at this ground. Next game, going to be an international. And Murray Mixted wants the next Super Rugby team to be in Hawaii, says the Sporting Kiwi. Do they play their home games in Hawaii, or are they just based out of Hawaii, though? Now, another scrum reset. Ooh. I think Tony Johnson in the commentary box just saying there that maybe that try, Jack Bowen might have actually got a bit of a grounding on it. The one right at the end of the first half that then Talia scored. It's a bit late to say that, though. They're 32 points down now. Yes, he said they've got a stadium there. How long is the flight from New Zealand or Australia to Hawaii? And that's a penalty going the way of the Blues. The attack of the Tars has gone south yet again. I would try out for that Hawaii team, says Polo there. Yeah, how competitive is rugby in Hawaii? I haven't actually heard of any sides in terms of a local competition, but I assume there'd be some pretty solid units in the team. And Bowden Barrett kicking this one into touch. Is that to build and get eyes on Super Americas? Says Mr. All-In, Dan Carter, Ultimate Kicking Coach, in 8 hours. It's not actually as long as I thought the flight was. I thought it was closer to that 12-hour mark, but maybe I'm thinking of either South Africa or US is a lot further, isn't it? In terms of a lot of those other positions, that's going to be another penalty going the way of the Blues due to the Waratahs closing the gap at line-out time. Flight time 8.5 hours, says Matthew. Yeah, so it's not awful. Bowden Barrett does get that one into touch. Another line-out chance here for the Blues. We've kind of hit a little bit of a stalemate at this stage of the match. We're 67 minutes through. The Blues aren't really in any hurry to go for any crazy plays. Like, they've won this contest. They don't need to do much more. They can avoid injuries is the biggest thing to do at this point in time. Caleb Clark now running it hard, 40 metres out. We'll love to see Cheetahs of Free State Province to be made part of this competition, but logistics money probably won't make it happen. There's Gerharden. That is going to be the knock-on there. In fact, double knock-on. First one, though, from Dalton Papali'i. A little bit frustrated about it, too. From the LAX to New Zealand, it's like 15 hours. Says Polo there. Yeah, so a little bit of a longer one. How long is the flight from New Zealand to Japan? Out of curiosity. Because I know that a Japanese side were talked about as maybe being an option of joining in the future, but that would be shorter distance than Hawaii would. Oh, no, I wouldn't guarantee it, because I think from Australia to Japan is about 5 hours at a guess-ish, maybe 6. So then from New Zealand, I think you'd have to go to Australia first to go to Japan, wouldn't you? Now Tui Pelotu taken off the field. That is for Josh Berry, but much appreciated or appreciative crowd for Tui Pelotu there. He has had a very solid game for the men in blue. Big scrum from the Blues again. They got themselves another penalty advantage, and Beauden Barrett going for the kick behind. Ioane with a chance of a hat trick. Can he get it down? Yes, he does. Smiles in the face of Joey Walton. Looking at him on the ground, talking a little bit of trash. I feel like he should be a little bit more humble in that scenario. I mean, how long has it been since that man's got 3 tries in a season, let alone in one game? But Rieko Ioane getting his third. Auckland to Tokyo is 12 hours. That's a lot longer, isn't it? But the kick him behind. Ioane manages to claim it. Joey Walton trying to stop him from making the extra ground. You can fly straight to Tokyo from Auckland. And Japan join Super Rugby and would be crazy and dope. I've been following the playing in Japan, says Polo. And not an easy contest, says Mr. Allin. But Rieko tipping his cap as a celebration there. And the 3 celebration as if he was snorting a line off his third finger. I assume that means something else, but I'm not really hip with what that means. But yeah, some sort of under-nose sniff thing. A big score, says Mikkel. And can the Blues hit 50, says Kiwi Rob. Tell you what, they're not a mile off. Beauden has missed another kick, though. So they do need the conversion for the last kick if they do want that 50 points. But just really nicely done by the Blues again. Nicely taken by Mark to Leo once more. Now Sam Knock gets it up to, I believe that would be Lay. And, Man Barrett, and Rieko Finna Gangster, says Polo. Yeah, so I assume it's some sort of cool thing that the hip kids are doing, but I don't do it. I don't know what it is. I wouldn't know half the hip slang now. I just said that like a 50-year-old. But that's going to be Cole Forbes kicking it in behind. Taken by Tainir mid inside of his in-goal area. Now, charging forward. Oh, good low tackle made. Sam Knock. Off now to Leo with a little bit of a stutter step. And now Hoskins, that's a missed pass. Going out to Ioane. Oh, the way he fell there looked like he might have actually taken a bit of a knock to the head. I think he's all right, but yeah, just the way that he kind of folded in the tackle. I'm pretty sure The Rock did it in WWE. Says a sporting Kiwi. Virtual signalling, says Polo. And that could be a yellow, to be honest. Says Islanders fan, still just the 8.5 minutes remaining. So the question we will ask the chat is the question that was asked to us just before. Will we see 50 points from the Blues? I missed a lot of action, busy vacuuming and picking up guavas. My garden is full of them falling off during the storm. And let's go to Canes, says Kiwi Rob. Yeah, well, that's the thing. The Blues have done what they needed to in this game. Now it's up to the Hurricanes. And it's also, it's up to Moana Pacifica. They will write their own fate here. Last time they beat the Canes by a narrow margin. This game they need to beat them by 3 or more tries, which is going to be tough to do because the Canes haven't been looking too shabby in the last few weeks. In fact, they've probably chosen the best time to peak in this competition, just like the Blues. Evening to you, Roof. And we have got their Flummer kicks here. And Blues will get 55 points, says Michael. And then Beauden Barrett score a try. Did the Blues convert? Beauden missed it again. So they've got 7 tries. I think he's missed 3 so far in terms of the conversions, which doesn't actually sound as bad as it could have been. You know, what time is Drua versus the Reds? It has taken place at 9:35 p.m. Sadly, we won't be covering that game because of the overlap with the first quarterfinal of the URC, but the last 10 minutes of that game, I believe, will be happening at the time of our build-up for the URC, as well as maybe even the kickoff. So we're going to be talking about that game on that stream as well. Where the Chiefs and the Hurricanes meet before the final. There's a possibility, but for that to happen, I believe the Chiefs have to lose their game next week up against the Blues or Moana. And losing by 78 to win by 3+ tries would be a story. It certainly would be, but hasn't this whole season been a story for Moana Pacifica? I mean, they have just been a dream at times in terms of what they've been able to do. But the question is, will the Tars score? And second quarter final, says Kiwi Rob, meaning more first quarter final of the day. was the reasoning behind me saying the first quarterfinal. Now, going to be popping that one up to Violana. Good to see that you're listening though, Kiwi Rob. Much appreciated. Going off to Lawson Craigton, now spinning out of that one. Going off to the left-hand side. Chance there. And if we're actually being really technical, just because I have to be a little bit, it's not actually considered as quarterfinal number 1 unless you're doing it off matches. Quarterfinal number 1, I believe, is actually Leinster versus Scarlets because of rankings. But you knew that, Kiwi Rob, of course. I know that cold could sting. Have a wonderful day, though, weekend, says Johan. And all in, Hamish, I concur with you. You do not want to play Blues in the quarter or semi-final, says Gerhard. And yeah, they'll come into that game with a lot of confidence because they have done quite the thing in this game. In terms of, like, this match some people felt was going to be close. And the Blues have just said, nah, not happening. We're winning it by a comfortable, which they always had to chase at the end of the day. Who's your man of the match? Any hat-trick? Rico got the hat-trick. Talia has 2 tries. Tui Pilotu did a lot throughout this game, but I think for the sake of seeing as he hasn't got a hat-trick in a very long time, you'd probably have to go Rico Ioane. He hasn't even scored a double in a very long time, so to have it now is pretty much the perfect timing. Now Waratahs looking to the short side, but getting shut down. And how much confidence do the Chiefs have? Lots, says Michael. Yeah, I mean, they started that game up against the Highlanders extremely well. They started to dwindle in that middle patch, but came back into it near the end of the game just to really secure a nice win too. The Blues have won. They certainly have. 5 minutes left. See whether or not they can get themselves one more try. But the Tars, they're wanting their first of the match. Now, back across to the right-hand side. And like they said, if they can get one try here for the Waratahs, it would be a nice way to finish this contest. The Blues, though, they will be determined to try and have a clean sheet when it comes to the tries scored. Now, Jack Grant goes across to Ed Med, shoveling it on. Lawson Creighton, 2-man tackle on him. Tryless Waratahs, what you doing? Says Tom. And if Quintabai isn't available, it's going to be a lot tougher since my Chiefs don't have a backup 12 option with no Anton Leonard-Brown either, says a sporting Kiwi. And yeah, the Chiefs got hit by a few big injuries in that last game. But now, tackled about 15 metres out for the line. Finally, my Blues have upped their game. Says Vito, kicked him on from Lawson Creighton. Sam Knock just watches that one over the sideline. I don't believe he touched it before it went out. Oh, it is going to be now the 22 dropout. I guess one more try. Waratahs, one more try will be happy, says Roland. If the Canes lose, can they drop out of the playoffs? Sorry if you already discussed it, just knocked off. Says I see you, no worries at all. So the Canes cannot drop out of the top 6. What can happen for the Hurricanes, just at this point in time, the Blues are now in that 6th spot. So if the Hurricanes were to lose to Moana Pacifica, they would end up dropping down to 5th if the Reds beat the Fijian Roar. Now, the other side of things is if the Hurricanes, let's say they win by a narrow margin and the Reds win by a comfortable one, the Hurricanes, theoretically, the only way they can drop below the Reds is if they draw or lose. But if they just get themselves the win, their points differential, because the two sides will have the same amount of victories, is high enough that they'll be the one through. And now little kick him behind from the Tars. It just hasn't worked all day. And they keep on trying it. Cole Forbes has the option of just being able to force that ball down. What happens if the draw beat the Reds, says the sporting Kiwi? They have the potential of going up in the rankings, but only if, like I said, the Hurricanes haven't got themselves the win up against Moana first. Now kicked off by Harry Plummer. Well claimed. Wow. They've just said there, if this game closes out the way that it is, this is the biggest winning margin that the Blues have ever scored up against the Waratahs. That is a statement victory at Eden Park. I can't every time I jump on, ready to run my nipples to Hamish's voice. Says rough. Now I wonder whether or not you've got another account, because you're not the first person who says that they rub their breasts to us. But it was another bloke. I disagree without being negative that the Blues haven't played that well, especially in the forwards. Go the Canes. Says Jew. Wait, that I disagree that the Blues haven't played that well, especially in the forwards? As in, like, throughout the season or throughout this game? Because this game, they've been pretty strong. You know, we've seen some good work from the locks in particular. Lachlan McWannell, I think, also is another man that needs a little bit of credit for what's happened. But most tries for the Blues of all time, he is tied with Dougie Howlett at the moment for Rieko Ioane on 55. One more in the playoffs, which they are now in, will bring him to the most tries for any Blue of all time. I see Kieran Tumafalau is coming to my Chiefs next year. As much as I like him, I struggle to see I'm getting a regular start. Really? That's a really interesting signing. Personally, I wouldn't have thought that that is one that the Chiefs would need. And I really hope that it's not just the case of him getting hardly any match time rather than getting to start pretty consistently for Moana Pacifica. But the Blues have got themselves another penalty. 1 minute now left on the clock. This game, they don't seem connected, says Stu's World. Yeah, although it's a bit hard. I don't know how to say this without it sounding like it's really ripping on the Tahs, but it's pretty hard to find structure sometimes when you're up against a team that have been as shaky as the Tahs have been throughout this match. Like, you're always going to struggle to get multiple breakdowns in a row because they're either giving away a penalty or the ball's going loose. Now, back across to the right-hand side. 40 seconds left now. Crowd loving the action. At this point, come on the Scarlet, says Flesh and individual efforts are not a collective unit, says Stu's World. So who would you say hasn't really stepped up in terms of that fallback? I'd say that Renata did well enough. I think Fusitua wasn't too bad. I mean, at the end of the day, the scrums were dominant, so that probably helps. Ricky Riccatelli was solid. Patrick Tuipulotu and Lachlan McWannell, I thought, were both strong. Segner wasn't too bad for his game back from injury. Papali gave away a penalty, but has been tackling all the time throughout this 80. And then Satutu's had some decent moments. I don't think there's anyone who's really had a poor... Dalton hasn't. Yeah, so like in terms of his penalty count, he's probably a little bit not where he'd like to be, but he's made a lot of tackles throughout this matchup. The question is, can he do that without giving away the penalties? That's the big one. They are playing a penalty advantage here, so the Blues will have one last crack at being able to score themselves a try. The last thing that they want here is an injury, though, so they might even have to be strategic and just get this ball into touch. Sam Knox, skip past it to Lee. He's dropped it, but they'll go back for the penalty advantage. Came off the feet and continued to play the ball. And Hoskin hasn't, says Stu. Yeah, I think they've been solid enough. Out of everywhere, the loose forwards, I would probably agree with you that they haven't been the most stand out, but they haven't really had a huge amount that they've had to do in terms of on the attacking side of things. Like, normally you see Satutu in amongst the action, but I think he's probably only had one carry on attack. Oh, they're taking the shot here, the Blues. I think the crowd aren't too happy about it. Amish Sharks and Bulls later. Munster going to be interesting. Yeah, I think Munster definitely are the underdog that people are keeping a close eye on. Tahs just don't have the cattle or the spine this season, says Michael. Yeah, they were a lot closer at the start. But when they lost a few of those guys like Joseph Suali'i, that just completely changed. But Plummer kicks it over. That will be his last kick at Eden Park as well for this Blues side. So a nice moment for him. And 46 points to 6. Yasua said hello. Welcome in. Now, next live stream will be taking place in 40 minutes' time. Rico's still talking a little bit of trash there with, I think there was Jack Grant, and Rico was pointing up at the scoreboard, so I'm not sure what's been said there. But if we're talking about confidence, Rico seems to have found us. Give the man one hat-trick and all of a sudden feels he's the best centre in the world. But if that's the mentality that he needs to be able to play well, and that's the mentality he's got to go with. You can see a huge difference between the Chiefs and the Blues. The Chiefs hunt as a pack, says Stews. And can someone explain the hype about Fabian Holland, because I don't see it? I think it's, at times you see it a lot more. Like, I was a bit the same, but the last few games I've really started to see what that man is capable of, because you also got to remember he's on the bottom of the table side, but he's still looking like one of the standouts for them. He's working line out strong. I think he's made the most tackles out of any player in Super Rugby, so the man's got a big gas tank, which is what you want. In the locks, he's a solid unit as well, so he will be competitive at line out time. And up the Blues, great home win. And Chester Crusaders final, says Moss. and there as well. But nonetheless, like I mentioned, next game is taking place in around 45 minutes time. That will be the Hurricanes taking on Moana Pacifica, and that will determine whether the Blues have got themselves a spot through to the next stage of the competition, or whether it will be instead Moana who managed to get the job done. But thank you all very much for tuning in. We've also got the quarterfinals of the URC that will be taking place later on tonight. We will be covering those games too, and we will be scheduling them in between these two streams. So keep an eye out for those ones as well. But thank you all very much for tuning in. I will see you all for the next one.